All right. So nice to see everybody. Have a seat. Cross your shins. Place your hands on your thighs. Lift your spine up. Drop your shoulders. Back ribs squeeze in. Side ribs forward. Front ribs up. Drop your shoulders again. Chin up. Let your eyes close for a moment. So as you start to to connect with your breath, recognize the work you've done prior to now in your yoga practice. And even if this is your first yoga class or your thousandth or your hundred, your 10,000th hour on your mat, that each step you've taken has made some level of experience or ease in the work you're doing. And that it has created some level of change, big or small. And that change means going back to things that you used to do, even things you liked, are going to be different. You spend a year working on your hamstrings, the stretch is going to change. You spend years working on your headstand, it's going to feel different. And that the amount of effort you put in is not needed anymore. Focus, yes. Discipline, always. But forcing yourself to work at the exact same level on something that you might have started with in the beginning, to put the same amount of force in or the same amount of energy, is not, in my opinion, honoring the fact that you've put in work and that work has given you experience. And that experience has made you work more efficiently, differently, with more clarity and awareness and ease. That trying to recreate the same sensation, the same feeling, the same amount of time on your mat, the same amount of stretch or sweat, is not honoring any of the work you've done before. So my friends, as we go through our practice today, recognize and begin to be aware of things that are different for you now than say before. And even if this is your first class, if you did one side and you stretch it the same side again later, there may be a difference from the first time. Don't try to push it to be the same. See what it is now. Be receptive and open and own that you've done some work. Let it uplift you. Instead of you thinking, I'm immediately in the wrong for not feeling the same thing, for not having to work as hard. Owning that level of mastery, or owning your experiences, your work, and your development, is a part of maturity in your practice. It gives you the chance and the space to take that energy, to take that effort, and put it into new things. Now with the clarity you have from all your practice. So that there's a step moving forward in this work, instead of you having to add more to it. You don't have to work as hard in your down dog as you did in your first days as you do today, because you know more, you've trained more. So now you have the energy and time to work in something else, instead of just adding and adding and adding. Don't make yoga a burden to carry. Make it a path to walk along. And recognize that as you've walked, you've gotten stronger or healthier or clearer, whatever that may be. Bring your palms together, set your cell phones down, bring your palms together at your chest, thumbs touching your sternum. Blow them shortly 3 times and begin. Om. 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 Bow your head. Salute the essence of yoga inside yourself. Bring your palms into your lap. Let your head rise. Your eyes open. Good. So nice to see everybody. Take a moment. All right, here we go. Stand on up. Let's get to work. So put both of your blocks, or one of your blocks, or if you're using a chair to support yourself in your yoga practice for your forward folds and the like, go ahead and put that to one end of your mat with the seat of the chair facing that way, or 2 blocks at the one end of your mat, and then stand at the other end, face your blocks, and do Tadasana. So you're looking down more or less the length of your mat, feet in Tadasana, thighs in Tadasana. Don't move. Just because we're online doesn't mean you don't move with some alacrity. Thighs squeezing in, calves squeezing in. Stretch both arms up, palms facing in, Urdhva Hastasana. And as you stretch up from the side body, try to lift from each side of your rib cage up towards the armpit, and then stretch the arms, lift away from the neck up, not squeezing the shoulder in, but lift from the side body, back body. And even though it may feel weird, think about the joint of each arm coming into the socket, so it like slightly pulls down, but then lift the shoulder blade, socket, and arm higher, so you engage the muscles into the shoulder. Interlace your fingers, turn your palms up. Continue that extension through the wrist, palm, and arm. Try not to shove your arms back, but go for height. Gravity is not behind you. Gravity is above you. Move your body in the direction where the pressure or the change you want to create is. You don't want, as Mr. Tranger would say, you've got gravity pushing down on you all day, push up against gravity. So that doesn't mean gravity is behind you, pushing you forward. It's pushing from the top down. So push through your feet and extend through your legs, up, side body up, arms up. And take in some piece of this to continue off of the mat. Because even though our time may be limited together, you can always have more asana, even when the cameras and screens are off. And you can always trust that you're being guided by your experience in your work by just feeling it in the moment. And try not to make it about how long you hold it, but are you paying attention deeply when you're holding it? And are you paying attention to what this feels like now? Because when we come back to it, and oh, we will, are you going to recognize your experience from the first time to the next time? Bring your arms down, step your right foot up forward, about 3.5 to 4 foot, nice long stride, both legs straight. 3 poses, each side, each stride, to start warming up different rotations of the hip and back to make seated poses and upper spine move. Stretch your left heel down towards the floor, turning your toes out slightly, but still rolling your left hip forward. So your whole upper body's facing the right thigh. Stretch both arms up, interlace the fingers, turn the palms up again. I told you you'd be back. Now notice the difference with one leg back to one leg forward. Extend and lift. I'm taking time in these transitions to point these differences out so that you can get some little bit of insight drawn into a pathway of questioning yourself, questioning your practice, and looking at how you move. I'm not going to tell you you're right or wrong, but I'll be sure to question to help you find out the right path for you. But ultimately, that's your call. So bend that right knee into Virabhadrasana 1. Good. Some of you have done really good. You remembered from past classes where we did not want to put one foot in front of the other, but we kept the foot more aligned with the hip. It's nice to see everyone still remembering that part. Lovely. Continue to bend that right knee as you stretch through that left leg. And then notice the change in the effect on your upper back. Can you still lift each arm with the similar action? Can you still push down through the feet to lift from the legs, lift from the ribs, and lift up through the arms, pulling the bone of the shoulder or the arm into the socket and then lifting the whole socket set from the rib cage up. Might make you work your upper back some more. Good. Spin your left heel in deeper, so your left toes now point out to the side completely. Keep your right knee bent, roll your left hip back, roll your left ribs back, and then stretch your arms wide into Virabhadrasana 2. So it's a rotation of the left thigh, left hip, left ribs. And then check your hips. Just because you came out of one pose to the other, are your hips more or less even, or is one hip higher than the other? Can you pull one hip down and then lift your spine up, not leaning one side to the other? So Shubha, don't lean your chest to the right, lean your chest to the left. There you go, dear. Wonderful. Nicely done. Come on, try it. Bend that right knee. You got it. And take a minute in this breath and check in with where your mind's going. You want asana? Here you are. You've signed on to the class. So why is your mind still on work or other dramas? Pull it into the now. Ask yourself to feel the sore leg, to feel the achy hip, to learn and live in the experience of this, so that this will be enough for you, even if it's for 2 seconds more, or I leave you here for 20 minutes because I'm a jerk. Take your right hand down onto the floor on the outside of your right foot. Take your left hand down to the floor on the inside of your foot. I would grab your blocks, place them underneath the hands, 12 inches in front of your right leg. Lean forward, lifting your left leg up into the air, the height of your hip into Virabhadrasana 3. So your left foot is the height of your hip with your toes pointing down. Right leg can be bent a little bit, but prefer if it was a little straighter. Take a moment and lift your left leg above your hip. Now keep it that high and roll your left hip down. There you go, good extensions. Notice the upper body weight is leaning, the whole body weight is kind of tilting forward into the right front of the right foot in the hands. Move it backwards, shift your body weight back so your core has to flex, your chest has to lift up a little bit. Good. If your chest lifts up, and look out in front of you to help teach that action of the chest lifting, so the side ribs and all the muscle need to engage, and then breathe into you. Feel what's going on here. Don't disassociate. Don't check out from it. Check in with it more. How does your foot feel? How does your hamstring feel? How does your hip feel? And even if you don't know what you're learning, pay attention and remember, because then when you get another source, the other leg, or you do it again, you have something to compare to. That's why some teachers won't answer your questions about poses until you do them for a year. How do you know what questions to ask that aren't just like, what's the answer, instead of, you know, this is what I've come to. Where am I? What's going on with that? Bend your right knee. Take your left foot back to the floor about 3.5 foot to 4 foot away, so you're back in a lunge. Bring your body up. Straighten the right leg. Step your right foot back to your neck, to your left foot. Right to Tadasana. Don't dance around. Just get to it, land it. Even if it takes a couple hops, that's okay. Thighs together, feet together. How is this Tadasana different than your first one? Do you remember? Probably not. Stretch both arms up, interlace your fingers. Change the lacing of the fingers so it's the opposite set. Turn your palms up, lift through the side body. Oh, some of you jumped into the left foot forward. Whose class are you taking? Yeah, I caught you. It's okay. I do that all the time. Try not to lift your shoulder joint away. Don't lift the arm out of the joint. Pull the humerus bone into the socket, and then lift the whole joint high so the whole girdle of muscle pushes the arm up. Bring the arms down. Step your left foot forward about 3.5 to 4 foot. Long stride. Take a step or two. Challenge yourself to open it up out there. How is this stride different from the other side? So Mr. Iyengar, I think, held poses forever, not just because of the physical time it takes to get some effect out of it, But really, how do you really feel what's going on in every part when if you're just flying? Take your arms above the head, interlace the fingers, change the lacing of the fingers so it's opposite of what you just did. Turn your arms up. Stretch your right heel down, rolling your right hip forward. And then bend the left knee. Virabhadrasana 1. Getting the rotational action of the thighs and the lift of the spine. Doing two things that are completely natural, but doing it with the focus that you're not overworking, like your low back or say your knee. So as you flex the right thigh, flex the large muscle leg, stretch your weight into that heel. And then as you bend the left knee, let your hips sit down so you can lift your spine upward. Because lifting your spine off of your low back is only going to give you so much work. Lifting your spine up off of your hips is much more muscle. It's going to give you a greater effect. It's going to let you feel more wobbly in the spine, which is good because it means your spine is moving. Good. Spin your right heel in more so your toes are pointing all the way out. Rotate your right thigh back first. Let your right hip follow, your right ribs, and then spread your arms wide when you think you've finished the spiraling of the upper body. Don't let your arms lead the action because that leaves your middle body out of it. Do your leg, your hip, chest. Then your arms. Very good. If you feel like you need to step wider, wiggle your feet a little bit farther apart. It's okay with me. But what is this pose like your first Warrior Two or your last one that you can remember? What's your difference between you then and now? And even being able to think about that is a level of wisdom and mastery that is more important than just all the work how much you're pushing or how much you're burning or you're sweating. No one is bad. No one's body is bad and has to pay a price for being the way it is. Good. Take both hands down to the left foot. Use your blocks if you need under your hands, 12 inches in front of your foot. Lift your right leg up into the air. Toes pointing straight down, Virabhadrasana 3. Lift your right thigh and foot higher than your hip. And now roll your right hip down, keeping that right leg up. Nice. Lift your chest up and look out. Get out of the action of curling the upper back down just to pick your leg up. Lift your spine up as you pick your leg up so your front abdominal muscles and the left leg have to work hard. Very good, Pratima. Keep your arms nice and long, dear. Don't be afraid to look up. Instead of leaning your weight forward into the arms and into the toes, lean it backwards. Micah, a lot. There you go, Micah. Keep going. Good. Try to get that leg up. You got it, dear. So as you extend the leg and you're shifting your body weight to not just be in your front and your arms, but in your back, in the back leg, in the standing leg, you're going to really challenge your hamstrings, your hips, and you're going to get a level of work about it now just because you have the awareness of where your body weight is, where you are in space. How is this leg different than the other leg? What are the feelings? What are the thoughts about it? And can you remember any other time you've done this pose to now? Can you remember and think about what you've learned from last times to add to this time? And can you make some micro adjustments that work for you, even though I haven't said them? I'm teaching you something in an insight or about a sequencing, how you make micro adjustments to really make it a beneficial thing for your practice. Love it, right? That's teachers acknowledging the student's growth. If I saw something that was wrong, I'd tell you. I don't see anything wrong. I'm watching the group. Bend your left knee, take your right foot back down to the floor, about 3.5 feet away from your left. Bring your chest up, body up. Step your left foot back to your right foot. Tadasana. Heels together, thighs together. Actively squeeze the inner calf, inner thigh together. Pull the femur bones, right, the big long bone from your knee to your hip into the socket. So your right's trying to go to your right, left's trying to go to your left. So your spine has nowhere to go but up. Take both arms straight up, interlace your fingers, turn your palms up. Extend. So as you extend, again, pull the joint into the socket and then lift the whole girdle of muscle around the socket up. So it's a shift, not just of a small area that dislocates or can overextend, but a whole trunk lifting the small. Makes your upper backward. Change the lacing of your fingers so it's the opposite set of fingers, opposite lacing of your fingers. Take your arms down, step your right foot forward 3.5 to 4 feet. Take your right hand back behind you and grab your left forearm near the elbow. Straighten both legs. Stretch your left heel down towards the floor, turning your toes out just ever so slightly, but still rolling your left hip forward. Exhale, stretch down, taking your chest towards the knee. Parsvatanasana. Now, if your balance is off, you probably stepped one foot in front of the other a little too much. You might have to widen your feet on your mat. It's better to have them wide and be able to gain an awareness of the pose and time in the pose than it is to force narrow and to fall. Now, as you go down, notice your left shoulder is pulled up and away from your body. That's good. Try to match it with the right. Pull with your right hand so your left and right shoulder are both moving back, but then stretch your chest bone forward towards the toes so that it's the center line and muscle of the bone and rib cage that's going forward, while the outer muscle set of the shoulder goes back towards the hips. And then once you've stretched out, curl it down. Pull the chest bone towards the knee. Don't curl in, so it's not your chin coming into your chest, but down. So your upper back stretches over the front body. And is each shoulder equal in height? So if you look at your right shoulder and then look at your left shoulder, take the moment, use your eyes to gain some awareness. Don't be afraid to look. And if one is higher than the other, either bring the high one down or lift the high one up so they're equal. You're going to find your balance very challenged by this. Bring your body up. Switch arms. Same legs, don't worry. You're going to get 2 more poses on this side. Stretch out and down. So your left arm pulls back on the right forearm and elbow. As you stretch your chest out and down, you get some extension of front, back, upper body, and then you pull on those arms to draw those shoulders back. This really helps those of us that are tendency to crunch in the neck and not use our legs and our upper back muscles to get out of the collapse. You have to lift here. And you hold and you breathe. Pick the body up. Bend the right knee. Take both hands onto the floor, one on each side of your foot. Spin your left heel in completely so your left toes point out. Take your left hand to your left hip. Rotate your left hip back, your left ribs back, and then straighten your right leg. Remember, those of you who are in past classes, push down through each heel, push down through each big toe, and drag your foot the direction the toes are facing to engage the thigh so you can extend your spine. Breathe into it. And now when you extend your spine, notice how your shoulders kind of want to drag towards your shoulders. Pull your shoulders wide away from your neck so you can lift your chest bone into it. And you're going to know you're really doing it if on this next thing you can hold. Keep your legs strong, keep your body at about the same height. Lift your right hand up off the floor and stretch your right arm straight out away from your body, bringing your right bicep to your ear. And hold. Drag each foot away from its opposite. And now twist your ribs without your arm coming down, and then you take your arm down just as a support. And work the pose. Take your left arm up, finish it. Very nice, everybody. Again, midway through this series of 3, how much asana are you getting out of this is not just the time you put in, but what's your focus? What's your awareness of your own body? Bend your right knee, bring your left hand down to the foot. You might need a block for this next one, but left hand on the floor, right hand on the right hip. Rotate your ribs, rolling the right ribs up to the ceiling, pulling your left ribs, lean into the twist. Don't lean away from it. So pull your left front ribs to your inner right thigh. And then straighten the right leg. Rotate the ribs any degree more. And come onto if you're on the block or on the floor, regardless of where your hand is, come to your fingertips so your body weight is not in that arm and you're not trying to make that shoulder twist you. Take a deep breath, round your mid and low back a little bit and twist that. When you round your back a little bit, you get that flexion of the spine that is where you start to learn to twist. And now stretch your right arm straight up, complete the pose. Revolve triangle. Nice. Nice hips, everybody. Good. Well done. Some of you have been practicing. Some of you, all of you. Now push down through each foot, stretch each leg away from each other, trying to tear that yoga mat. Bring the right hand down. Keep the legs straight, push through the feet, pick the body up. Step your right foot back to your left foot. Tadasana, heels together, calf squeezing in, thigh squeezing in. Interlace your fingers, take both arms straight up. Check in. The reason I'm having you check in on each side is to really emphasize this point that something is different. Something has changed. I couldn't even begin to tell, I have some idea knowing what I do physiological and practice-wise, but what's happening in you? What's happening for you? What is your depth of asana practice here? Pull your bottom ribs back, lift your back ribs up. There you go, Shubha, nice. What are you getting out of your work? Are you putting all of yourself into it? There's no distraction outside of this other than, this practice. Because if you're not, then you could spend 20 hours doing it and it's still not going to be deep. Deep and more is how much you put into 1 hour or 15 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is. Change the lacing of the fingers so the opposite set of fingers are, the fingers are in that opposite lacing. Palms up. And we're not even moving very fast, but we're moving thoroughly. We leave no part untouched. Move the shoulder joint into the socket. Move the femur bones into the socket so the greater muscles can flex and lift them. Take your arms down. Step your left foot forward. Take your right hand and grab your left wrist near, or your left forearm near the elbow. My apologies. Both legs nice and straight. Stretch the right heel down. Still rolling the right hip forward. Lift up your spine nice and tall. Pull the shoulders down away from the neck first, and then stretch forward by extending the core muscle and the front upper body out. And then when you've gone out, then you go down. And when you've gone down, then you stretch your upper back muscles over the front while the front is still trying to go out and down. And then keep those shoulders moving back. How much did they encroach forward? Push through each heel. Engage each leg to be stronger, dragging the earth away from you. That's why the mats are sticky, so you don't slide. Right? We used to do it on rugs. When you engage your legs, well, you're ready to move. Can you stretch each side of your rib cage out and then each side of your back muscle down? And then check your elbows or shoulders. Is one lower than the other? Try to even them out. Take a breath. Take a second, because that first one wasn't very deep. Right? Remember why even in all this work eventually just leads to paying attention to your breath, because if you can feel all the muscles of your body, if you can pay deep attention to your breath in the midst of this, then there's no emotional fluctuation in the mind that's going to pull you away from your meditation, your pranayama. Pick your body up, switch arms. So left hand's holding right just below the elbow on the forearm. Pull down on those arms, lift your chest up, stretch your spine out, forward, out over the left leg as far as you could reach, still moving those arms back. And then when you've gone out, go down. Still work your legs, work your legs. And when you've gone down, draw your upper back over the front body so that your back muscles are stretching over those ribs. Take a breath. Take two. You're putting nice, durable holds in this. Check in with your body. Where is this versus your other side? Where is this versus the moment where you just did it before with different arms? Check your shoulders, work them evenly. Roll the right hip into it. Is that hip different? Or are you having to try more on this side versus your other side? You may not give you an answer to what's going on in your body, but it gives you evidence. It gives you experience. It dispels a mistruth about your body. Right? It's one of the great chittivrittis, right? Belief in non-truth. Running a little rampant in our world. Body up. Good. Bend the left knee, take both hands onto the floor next to the foot. Spin your right heel in so your right toes point out to the side better. Right hand on your right hip. Rotate your right hip up and back, your right ribs. Pull your shoulders away from your ears so it's not your shoulders pulling your spine long, but it's your chest core body. Straighten the left leg, stretch it long. Now, if you're like stuck, your hamstring can't straighten, your chest is pulled down, don't be afraid to grab a block. Grab some level of support for yourself. If you're struggling, why struggle? Hard work is good, but working clearly, working wisely is better, right? Digging a ditch with, a little like garden hoe is hard work, but it's not very smart work. Use a shovel. Get help. Forcing your hand down to the ground because your hamstrings are tight is like digging a ditch with a garden hoe. It's going to go very fast. It's hard work, and I guess you could feel good about it, but you know, it's not very wise. Push down through each heel, stretch each leg away from each other, pulling that yoga mat. Lift your left arm up all the way and stretch it out to the side, laying the bicep on the ear. Rotate your ribs while holding that arm up. Lean your upper body back. And then once you've got your body rotated, take your left hand down to the floor so it is just there as kind of a balance thing instead of a weight bearing. Take your right arm up. Finish the pose. You got it. Nice, Shubha. Shubha, lift your heart up and take your shoulders away from your neck. Heart first, dear, not shoulders. Lean back. There you go. Nice use of a block, Chaya. Pratima, look up. Your spine's nice and long. Turn your head to look up, dear. There you go. Challenge yourself. Bend your left knee, take your right hand down. Left hand to your left hip. Turn the right toes in slightly. Push down. Through each heel, drag the yoga mat. Rotate your ribs first. Don't straighten the leg yet. Just rotate the ribs. Pull your right ribs towards your inner left thigh. So you're going to have to feel like you're slouching a little bit, but you're stretching those back ribs, those back muscles on the back side of your body. You've got a lot of muscle that runs around your mid rib cage. You have to pull your front ribs back and stretch it. That's what revolve does. Lean this one more. Suck your gut that way. I didn't say bend your elbow. Move your guts that way. Then once you've rotated, take a breath. Stretch your left arm up, finish the pose as you drag the mat apart. Keep going. Fine. Fine. Now lift your chest bone here. Upper chest this way. Yeah. That's it. Move your head back. There you go. Remember when you rotate, move those bottom right ribs forward towards the left thigh. Bring your upper chest bone forward towards the left leg, and then move your head back. Take a breath. And down. Straighten the leg. Step the left foot back to right foot, Tadasana. Good. Check in with yourself. Heels together, calf together. Squeeze the femur bones towards the center line of the body so they move into the socket, as Mr. Anger would say. They live there. Send them home. They're shaped to live in that spot. Pull them in there. And after you pull them in, push through the ground, lift up against gravity. Stretch both arms up, interlace the fingers, palms up to your ceiling. Just as you're moving the femur bones into their socket, move the humerus bone into its socket. So they pull in and down slightly, but then lift the whole girdle, the whole blades, the trunk, the front of the rib cage, the side of it up, so the whole arm ascends. What's different this side from the other? What's different now that both have been worked? Or is your memory not there clear enough yet that you remember 6 minutes ago? It's a lot. Who's to say this is not a lot? That's why we break the poses down. That's why we slow it down. That's why some classes I teach you do 4 or 5 poses. If you've ever learned to play music, you don't try just to play Freebird all at once. You break it down to bars at a time. You learn it, get comfortable, then you add. Bring your arms down for a second. Change the lacing of your fingers so it's the opposite set of fingers lacing. Palms out, arms up. Because we don't start trying to learn how to play Freebird. It's a lot. What's different with your arms now? Is there some difference in your legs now? Check in with yourself. And it's tiring. If you are tired in the first 30 minutes of your asana practice, wonderful. In the 17 years I've been doing this, I get so tired around the 20, 30-minute mark. And then there's times where if I don't get tired by then, I know I'm not really putting my attention or focus in it. I know if people are yawning around that point in my class, great. That means you're in your own body, you're in your own thoughts, you're in your own work, you're focused. Bring your arms down, step your right foot forward. 3.5 to 4 feet, long stride. Bend the right knee, take both hands onto the floor on each side of the foot. Walk both hands out 12 inches in front of your foot. Maybe use a block if your hamstrings are tight under your right hand. Spin your left heel in so your left toes point out towards the side. Take your left hand to your left hip. Lean your body weight into your right foot. Hop your left foot a little closer to your right foot and then lift your left leg up into the air, the height of your hip, into Ardha Chandrasana, half moon. Ardha Chandrasana. There you go. And notice some of you are doing it with both hands on the blocks. I was challenging you a little bit. See if you do it without any hand, like only one hand on the block. It's all right. Don't worry if you did it with both. Take what you need to get there. Just notice that you did it. Lift your left leg a little higher than your hips, especially if your hand is not on a block. This is something I've come to realize, that your leg needs to be in line with your spine. So if your spine is low, your leg has to go high. So if your hand is not on a block, your leg goes up a little higher. But you want to try to get your thigh in line with your side body and in your spine. Push down through the right foot. Drag the yoga mat forward so that thigh has to flex. Stretch your left arm up if you can, complete the pose. And wobble a bunch. Wobbling just means there's a lot to see and learn. Not a lot to disconnect from. Getting frustrated with yourself or angry with yourself is only telling yourself that you're not worth looking at, that you're wrong or bad. I'll take a lot of things in my class, jokes, silliness, wonderful things like that. I won't take abusive students, not from anyone, even themselves. Take a nice breath. Take your left hand down to the floor or your blocks. Turn your left toes to point down. Warrior 3 again. Woo! Going hard. You're getting that asana practice now. Are you in it? Are you coming out thinking about anything else? Don't. There's nothing but your pose and your hips right now. Lift your left leg higher than your hips and then roll your left hip down slightly. Lean your body weight back. How is this pose different than the first time you did it? Take your right hand to your hip. Bend your right knee slightly. Rotate your right ribs up to the ceiling. And now pause. Pick your left leg back up into the air high. And then stretch your right arm up and complete the pose. Woo! You got this, everybody. And just like when you're twisting in a revolved triangle, don't lean away from your right hip, lean towards your right hip. Make some room for your left hip to go up. Bring your right arm down, bend your right knee, step your left foot back 3.5 to 4 feet away, straighten the leg, pick your chest up, step your right foot back, feet together. Tadasana, interlace your fingers, take both arms up. Who knew this was the resting pose? I did. Some rest, huh? As you lift up through the arms, move each femur bone into the socket. See what's different. That's what happens when you stretch one side to the other. One leg may work easier. One calf may feel like it can move in. Try to narrow the space between the thighs. So the pelvis must lift, the core must lift, the upper body must lift instead of the compression down. Nice job. Everybody's lifting their arms up better. You're not pushing backwards, going for ascent up. Change the lacing of your fingers so it's the opposite set of fingers. Check in with you. Where's your breath? Where's your mood? Are you talking yourself out of the next side because you know the other side's coming? Are you already talking about your worries and your cares about it? Or can you allow yourself the freedom to see what it's going to be? Even if you quote unquote, I know what it's going to be, no one knows the future. Your hip could be amazing or your hip could be not. We'll see. Bring the arms down, step the left foot forward. But going in with the I know is already telling yourself there's no room for anything different than what I'm going to force it to be. Bend your left knee, take both hands to the floor. Use your blocks under your hands if you did on the other side. Lean forward into the left leg, hop the right foot forward a little bit, hands 12 inches at least in front of your foot. Lift the right leg up to the height of your hip, turning your toes out to your side. Rolling your right hip, thigh, ribs to the ceiling. If you can keep your right hand on your right hip as you go up, great. Nice use of deck there, Katie. Everything's a yoga prop. Remember what I said, if you're wobbling and falling, that's like in not using the wall or your props, not supporting yourself. Go to dig a ditch with a garden hoe. At one point, if you have a shovel right there, but you refuse to use it because you think on some morality level that it's better to do it with the smaller tool, bless you in your path, but that's not mine. Stretch your right arm up, try to complete the pose, wobble with it. Don't lock your left knee, but push through your left heel and drag the yoga mat with the foot. Roll those right ribs up, Tris. There you go, more. And tuck your left butt. Abs. You okay? Yeah, all right. Take both hands down to the block, warrior 3, Virabhadrasana 3. Don't bring your leg all the way down, just rotate it down. Try not to fall out of the pose, but move with focus one to the other. You have to step down for a second to catch your breath, but if you're breathing, you shouldn't have to catch it. Lift your right leg higher, but then roll your right hip down slightly. Lean your body weight into the left leg, the left heel. So it's not just all in your front body hands. Look out in front of you. So you're always in that lift of the chest. So the shoulders have to extend. Take your left hand to your left hip, bending your left knee slightly. Notice the minute you took your left hand to your left hip, how you really put all your weight in your right hand. Keep it in your left leg. Lift your right leg up. Begin to twist. And remember, when you twist, don't lean away from the left hip. Lean in towards it. Stretch your upper back wide and long. We've talked about this in the seated poses. We worked on those for months. Take your left arm up if you can. Take a breath. Even if it's the only full deep breath you're going to get out of this, and show yourself what it's like to just kind of breathe and give yourself to, for a moment, be happy in the pose. Bend the left knee, step your right foot down 3.5 to 4 foot away from your other leg. Straighten the leg, bring your body up. Step your left foot back to your right foot, Tadasana. Heels together, calf together, thigh together. Squeeze into that center line. Tadasana is not hands on your hips. It is not, let me see your manager asana. Take your arms up, interlace your fingers, palms up to the ceiling. Now you've done both sides. How is this different than when you had done neither side and only done one side and then done both sides? Ask yourself the questions. Check in with the spots that aren't the screaming parts. At the depth of your asana practice, whether it's one pose, 12 poses, 15, none. Change the lacing of your fingers, turn the palms up. Practice your yoga like you're running out of time. As according to one of my students, it's how I teach it apparently, or at least used to, days of old. Move the femur bones into the socket, move the shoulder joints into the socket, lift the rib cage. All right, bring your arms down. Come out of Tadasana, grab a blanket or a bolster or something, a block that you can sit on. Slightly towards you. Have a seat. Stretch both legs in front of you, and then stretch both legs wide into Uttanasana Konasana. Seated straddle stretch. Quickly. Lean into your right hip, take your left hand down, grab your right buttock, pull the flesh of your buttock out to the side and up slightly, and then put the sit bone back on the bolster, and do the same on the other side. Both feet flexed. And you notice when you stand, your feet in wide poses, your feet are not in this angle. This would be putting all the weight on your inner heel. Turn your feet in slightly, like you're pulling the inner heel back towards the groin on each foot. Almost like your feet are going from out like this to turning inward a little. Good enough. We'll work more on that in later classes. The tease for a technique. Reach forward with each hand, grab your big toe. If you cannot grab your big toe, use your straps. Most people should be able to get their big toe. Good. Notice before I even adjust where your body is at. What are you doing with you in this pose? Where's your head? Where's your neck? Where's your shoulders? Where's your heart? Where's your will? Are you watching the clock? Right? Can you take this time here at the end when you are the most exhausted, when you know it's like, oh, Savasana should be coming. You know, I teach an hour and 15-minute class because 15 minutes of it would just have been restorative anyway. You can take a 15-minute nap after, but give yourself that extra little push to stay in this a little more, not to how hard you're pushing the pose, But can you keep your clarity and your focus and don't let everything, the challenges, the downs of it get in the way of stopping you from becoming the clearest you about you? Who knows about the rest of the world? Who cares? Right now, this is your world. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, this is the only thing you have control of. And when it's all said and done, you want to be able to lay there and look at it and do, I did the best I could. Bend your elbows and stretch your chest out. Look out in front of you. Challenge yourself to look up and see instead of curling in. Notice the more tired you get, the sadder you get, the angrier you get, you want to pull in. Look up and see. I'm not afraid to see you. Everybody wants to be heard, listened to, but are you ready to be heard? Show here. Don't be afraid to hold up and show what you're going through in your face. Take a breath, bring your body up as you exhale, bend the knees, plant with your legs wide like this, feet flat to the floor. Take both hands onto the floor inside of your legs. Push down through each foot, especially the heel and the big toe joint, and drag your yoga mat, drag the floor a little bit. So those legs are strong. And then walk your hands out in front of you as far as you'd like. Look up, look out. Keep this up as the reminder to let all the chest, heart, and front body go with you. Walk your feet a little wider, Pratima. It's good form. Just a little bit wider. There you go, dear. Good work on your knees. Take a belly breath and let go of the hardness in your groin, your abdomen. And let that be soft so it can move in the fold. Let it recess back instead of gripping and pushing forward. You pushing your gut towards the ground is only going to make this restrictive. Take a few belly breaths real deep before you push down lower. Just take nice deep belly breaths so you feel your stomach stretch all the way to your lower back. And then exhale. And just use your belly breath as kind of a guide for the lift and rise and fall. You all are working hard in your legs. You're all working hard everywhere else. But can you bring your breath to that space that needs to move? Even if you don't go far, who cares? Massage it. Because I promise you, if one day you force yourself down hard enough, if you are gripped that you can't breathe, you will not find what you're looking for. Unless you're looking for more pain. I don't think anyone's particularly looking for that. Not in this class. I hope. Or maybe you're all here and I market a very different kind of pain. Take a breath in, exhale up you come. Still seated on your prop, cross your shins. One foot underneath each knee. Press your hands down into your thighs, lift your spine up. Drop your shoulders. Don't push your chest out, lift your spine up. So push your hips down, push your feet harder into the floor, lift, descend the spine. Press your hands hard again so your thighs have to flex to push your hips down. Stretch your back ribs towards each other, stretch your side ribs forward, lift your front ribs up, drop your shoulders, let your eyes close. Turn your palms up, taking the back of your hands onto your knee joints. So the back of your hands hang slightly over the front of your knees. So your arms have to stretch a little bit. Stretch your arm long so you're trying to get the back of your hand across the front of your knee. Push the back of your hand into your knee and lift your chest. Drop your shoulder wide. Stretch your shoulder wide. Eyes closed, chin up. Hold that stretch and breathe in it. Take that deep breath and let your inhale go to the top of the lungs, just below the collarbones and wide, so each shoulder has to move away from the heart. Not from your pushing or tilting, but only from your breath. So if you push the back of the hands into the knee, you feel that flex of the chest, it has to lift. Pull the shoulder down. And feel the breath, how it fills the space of the armpits and presses into the inner arm. And let each deep breath, as you do this action, be a massage to the upper shoulder joint, the chest muscles. Work your legs, work your feet, so that the limbs are creating a flux action to broaden, open, and lift the core body so your breath can come in deeper. So your breath moves into all spaces, especially the small ones that are tight. For me, in this work, my pec muscles into my shoulder joint, especially my left one, ache so much. But then I just don't try to force the arm to fix itself. It's set in its alignment. It's in the stretch. I use the breath to create the movement. I'm asking you to do it with your eyes closed so that you can be fully aware of the motion picture show of things that go through your mind. What came from your practice? And now that it is in the pool of the experiences of your greater self, with each deep breath, you accept that you went through a thing and you're still going through it. That each deep breath you have is just a continuation of that state and that experience of you. That even your breath is different, even though the muscles might snap right back or the bones might still ache, or you don't know if you've hit enlightenment or yet. But each breath is a recognition of that experience, that each deep breath in is a little clearer, maybe of just of your intent. And each breath out is letting go. Stop pushing your arms into the back of the knees, let your elbows bend, hold the upright action. And now breathe into that unflexed space. Still letting the breath be a massage to that upper thoracic, that upper body. Feet flexed, feet pushing down, hips pushing down. So your breath is lifted upwards. Here in the hardest moment when the eyes are closed, when no one is looking, it's easy to drop out. Here is the easiest time to say, I'm not feeling anything. So what am I getting? You're alive. You're always getting. Take this breath, this next one you take, to see what you've got. And know that that breath just added to it. That each breath out is also letting go. That in a world that constantly throws things at us, many of us so hungry to receive, it's easy to forget. We have choice. And that even when we receive something we did not want, that power in the world forces itself upon us. That we must reflect upon what we've received so that it does not control us or own us. That is a power that only we have over us, is to control and own ourselves. So breathe into that, my friends. Bring your palms together, chest, thumbs touching the sternum. Until we meet again. Namaste. All right.